I'm so glad to have you here on probably on my YouTube channel or in the podcast. And I miss you a lot, and I miss touring and everything. And how are you doing?
Well, I love your band, Helle, and it was so much fun when we were out the last time together. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough times. I miss touring. I miss my buddies. I miss my roadie friends. I miss my bands. It's a hard. It's yeah. It's quite a hard time just being by yourself in your hometown, even though you're not really by yourself. Obviously, you have your colleagues and friends who happen to live in the same city as you do, but it's not the same, especially the international touring folks like we are. We do have our best friends from overseas or from England or
Yeah.
from all over Europe, and you're stuck in your city and they can't leave their cities. So the only thing that's left is a WhatsApp here and there and a video call here and there, but it's not the same, is it? So we all miss
Yeah.
touring. It's now the summer is almost over, so it's yeah, yeah, it is what it is, I guess. How have
But
you
have
been?
you? I don't know. Well, more or less okay because like we are not that dependable on tours, and we just released like not just like in spring, we released our new album. We were supposed to be touring with it now and in
Right.
autumn and blah blah blah. But I'm just trying to move on because I was so much depressed like in spring, and I was so sure that it's going to be back, to normal in summer or at least in September. So today is September 1st, and it's getting worse and worse. For example, in Ukraine, and if you guys like you can travel at least in the European Union, we cannot do it. Like we're closed absolutely. So I don't know. That's why I'm just trying like was also one of the factors why I kicked off like this YouTube channel, because I mean, in any case, I'm sitting at home, so it would be cool, like, to have some talks with people like from other bands and from the music industry
Thank
and
you
all
so
those things.
much for inviting me. This is great.
Yeah, I was so excited because I was thinking like, with whom can I speak like apart from the bands? And I'm like, yes, that girl, I need you
Awesome.
on my show. And have you mixed any shows since the pandemic started? Actually, like this year.
No, I did not. The only thing that somehow came close to it, I was rigging and installing a PA in a venue near Amsterdam, but that only because they had purchased a new PA just
Hmm.
before the lockdown. So, and then we couldn't come because the borders were all closed, so we couldn't come there to tune the system. So that took a while until the borders were somehow open again in
Hmm.
Europe, and we all could travel. And the other system engineers from Belgium, and I'm coming from Hamburg, so we both had to enter the Netherlands to get to Amsterdam. So that took a while. So we could only get there in when were we there in June.
Hmm.
So we did that, but apart from that, I did not mix any shows so far. I have a singer, I have a showgirl slash singer I work with in Hamburg. We're doing some very few rehearsals. I help her with her stage presence and microphone techniques and stuff like that. So I, I I have the ability to go. I have the opportunity to go to a little club here and
Hmm.
work with her on her little show. But we don't know when she can do her show again. So it's all very much up in the air. And even though you say, well, in Europe we can't travel, well, that's true. But then um, every day you hear something new happening. I think today
Yeah.
Hungary closed for whatever reason. So it's nobody knows anything. I know a few of my colleagues, although a very 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 few, a very little percentage of them, they are doing some drive-in shows or streaming
Mm-hmm.
events, or but those guys are, they consider themselves very, very lucky to be in that position. And this is also far from normal. I mean, they get to do one gig or two, and this is nothing that helps any of us to move on with our career, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is, I don't know. Have you considered maybe like during these times, maybe to start teaching someone? I don't know. Or
um
is it impossible to teach, someone to mix like without actual live shows? I don't know. How
it
does it
is,
work?
it's difficult, right? How do you teach somebody to be a live sound engineer if there is no live sound or live music? So I try to train myself. I try to stay sane just by studying everything that's interesting. So I do that for my mind and for my sanity. I mentor some other young girls in the industry who want to
Mm-hmm.
be a sound engineer. So I also talk to them on video and answer their questions. Whether they have a little setup at home where they can get to a mixing desk and see what's new and just try little mixes on little multi-track recordings that they maybe had from before the lockdown. And I
Mm-hmm.
help them with some digital plugins or some outboard and some tips and tricks. But you can only get so far if you don't really have the opportunity of yeah, a live show or just APA or somewhere you can stand in front of. I mean, of course, we can now go to our storage rooms and our clubs and do something just in order to do something. But
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning, I mean, we are now how many months are we in lockdown now? March, April, May, June, July, August.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the 6 months of lockdown
Yes.
now. And in the beginning, we thought like, oh well, okay, everybody just chill out. Let's stay home for 3 or 4 weeks. Let's flatten
Mm-hmm.
the curve and everything. And then after that, we'll be fine again. But little did we know that it'll be September, and we still don't know when we can start. So I think at the beginning, everybody was really excited or very positive, not excited but positive,
Yeah, yeah.
to learn and to study and to do things that you never had any time to do. But after month number 5, it gotten, the motivation curve went down as well, and everybody's just like, maybe I need to get a job, maybe I need to do something else.
No, no, please.
Maybe I become a hairdresser or something.
Yeah. Well, it's actually very strange for me because like in my place, August was the first month when I dropped all my day jobs, like actually, because like before I had at least some freelance stuff going. So now I only have like the band, well, maybe Patreon, but it's still about the band and that's it. So for me, it was a bit different, but I mean, it's mostly because like of all the fans that have been supporting us and like because we released the new album and actually like I said in some other interviews, we were so lucky that we are not signed like to a label right now because a lot of labels postponed the releases like to the next year or something like that. So at least we could, release something, then you have a new merch line, you have like some content to do. And a lot of people are just, sitting now, the bands, I mean, and they're just waiting for touring. I am waiting for touring because like actually like the last year we almost spent it without touring. We had just a few dates because we were writing the new album and everything. And I'm like all the time I was thinking, why it could be like this year we could be just sitting and writing and then just touring, but like this year was supposed to be so much about touring for us and it's like everything is upside down. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I've totally missed my summer run this year.
Mm-hmm.
I would have also been out with the girls. I would have been out with the butcher babies,
Butcher babies. Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we would have had a really very, very cool festival summer ahead. Um, yeah, with, you know, sometimes when you get your festival summer schedule, the first thing you do is like, oh my God, what other bands are playing on my day? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
you phone up your friends and they were like, hey, we're on the same day at Wacken, or we're on the same day on Bloodstock. Let's hang out, let's have a drink, and let's,
Mm-hmm.
be social. And yeah, that's what I've missed the most. I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. I miss my friends. It's Yeah, I miss my buddies. Not just the show. Of course, I miss the show as well. I talked to this with a friend of mine the other day. She's also a showgirl, another showgirl friend of mine. She dances in a little club on Reeperbahn here, and she's like a burlesque performer, showgirl, comedy act. And she got really depressed because she was not only not able to be working and making money, but also missing her crowd and the applause every
Mm-hmm.
night. And she got really depressed because, like, this is what I've been doing for the past 10 years of my life, and now nobody is looking at me anymore. Now, from a front of house perspective, this is possibly just the other way because you only see people from the back usually. But I miss the applause too. I mean, when you get to the end of the show, and the kids loved it, and everybody gets really excited, then
Mm-hmm.
you're in your LD, or the backliner on stage, or the monitor guy, or the video guy was like, okay, good job, so we miss that too. At least I do. I miss the energy. And
Ah, yes. Yeah. We miss it all. From your perspective, like of live sound engineer, what does make your work more stressful and what does it make more smooth? I mean, what conditions do you need to have a great show, from your perspective?
you mean when it comes to touring,
Well,
like a
yeah,
tour?
touring, mixing a live show, a festival, like anything, any show, like, or maybe it is different, like, depending on.
It is really different. I think it depends if you work with your own band, or if you locally from the PA company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you work with your own band, what I mainly do is I get booked by bands to do their front of house sound on the tour. Um, I would say definitely what always helps are production days. So if you really have the opportunity to go for 2 or 3 days into a rehearsal spot before the first day of the tour, to really get to know each other. I mean, if it's a new band, but even if it's a band you've been working for years, it always helps to just, after a long period of not being out, to come back together, whether it's in the US or over here, and just sit down, talk about the show, talk about the set. Um, Intros are always really important for me. I always need to know how do you guys get on stage? Is there an intro? What is it sounding like? The beginning of the show is always crucial for
Mm-hmm.
everyone involved,
Mm-hmm.
so that you rehearse that. But every so often you just get thrown into the deep end, right? When there is a band that you don't know and there's no production rehearsals, and the first day of the tour is a major festival, and you got 20 minutes of changeover and you know nothing, and you just stand on front of house, and I'm like, yeah, I just wish for the best, at least that's what I do. It's always, it always depends. And if you are in a position where you work in a club, for example, and you have a visiting band and they don't have an engineer, which is rarely the case these days, but sometimes bands still do that. And then you need to figure out what they're doing in one afternoon or in the
Mm-hmm.
couple of hours before doors. But the longer you do it, the more often you do it, the more confident you get about almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, just I for myself just learned to just deal with everything that people just throw at you, because you got no other choice anyway. You gotta make it work at the end of the day, and you just do your best to make it work and to make it sound like the record. Maybe not always the case, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but do you have like so to say, like for you personally, is there something like that makes your day better, like to makes everything? Maybe something like not from the technical writer, but maybe some from hospitality stuff, or maybe you need some time, yeah, I don't know, to have a rest, or I don't know, just something that makes it way smoother, you know, with everything.
uh, I'm not. I'm actually not very demanding on tour. I don't have anything on the rider. I'm not a vegetarian or I'm not a vegan. I don't have any allergies. You know,
Mhm.
I'm 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 actually cool with everything. I guess what makes my day smooth is when all right, I know one thing. I want to eat before I load in. I want to have breakfast before. So if I can actually get up in the morning and have a shower and have a breakfast and a coffee and maybe sit for 20 minutes and then load my trailer or my truck, that's a good indication of a smooth day. Because you know how this works. Sometimes you just get up in the morning and you're like, loading is like in 5 minutes, and you go like, what? Just
Yeah.
get up. Or loading is at the same time as getting to the venue, or you go like, oh. Or you loading is maybe an hour after getting at the venue, but you have some very motivated stagehands. They already want to open the truck while you're still having your coffee. And then you're kind of like, oh, they want to work and everybody's looking at me and I'm going to take my time. But yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
that's all.
Oh,
Breakfast
okay.
is always good.
Yeah. Next question. Can you tell like what are the main mistakes that bands do on stage, maybe from the technical perspective that can, I don't know, that can influence it, like your mixing somehow, or maybe, I don't know, maybe like from the inexperienced bands, what they do wrong. I don't know, maybe they have something not prepared, or how can they make it better, like to sound technically on stage?
I guess for newcomer bands who are new in the touring industry, or new to touring, what always helps is an accurate rider. A stage plot. Stage plot always helps massively, at least to me, when I'm a local sound engineer and I wait for my band, and I know where are the power drops that I have to prepare, or
Mm-hmm.
who you know, stage left, stage right positions, so I can throw my chorus there already, to just to speed up a little bit of the sound checking process. So that always helps. Stage plots are a good indication of just being on the safe side. I mean, a classic mistake that bands like to make is the guitar player turning up his amp halfway through the show. And you go like, okay, well, duh, you can't hear yourself turn up the amp. I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
but for for either side of the snake, whether it's monitor engineer or front of house engineer, that sucks. But you deal with it. I mean, I also believe that the reason why you have a sound engineer up front is, I mean, there we cannot turn everything into gold, obviously, but we're also there to deal with what's being given us from stage. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, of course, don't turn your amp up halfway through the show, at least, you know, because that will make the soundscape change drastically.
Mm-hmm.
I also know drummers who are quite lazy during sound check, and then on the first song of the set they just go like crazy, and on front of house you go like, whoa, what's happening? But
They didn't have
you
their
know,
coffee.
yeah, maybe. And but then you deal with it regardless. But yeah, that's just a little things that you can do as a band.
I understood your point of view. Actually, what I wanted to ask, a lot of times, for example, the show has already started and the band starts playing, and I don't know, some of them don't hear themselves because something changed, you know, the crowd got into the venue or something. Like, your opinion, does this band need to, you know, talk to the mic, to the sound engineer to change something? Because actually, like, I asked this question to a lot of people, like other fellow bands, and some of them say that it looks like very unprofessional, or that, I mean, it's in the middle of the show and they are talking like about some technical stuff. Like, what do you think?
I don't okay, put it this way. If you are a band that draws a couple of thousand people, a couple of thousand tickets per show, there's a fat chance that you have your own monitor engineer, your own front of house engineer, your own desks, your own in-ears, and you had rehearsals before, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about professionalism, is that the word?
Yeah.
The chance that happens halfway through the show, that anybody can't hear themselves, or it's so bad they have to say something to the monitor engineer, are quite small. So if you are a band that draw not so many people, maybe just 200 to 300 tickets show, and you only bring a front of house engineer, or maybe no engineers at all, well, you have to talk to the house people, because if you don't bring your own people and you have different engineers every night and different setups every night, and your setup is limited because your budget is limited, then that's rock and roll. I mean, you will have to. I don't see any problem with that, and ever so often, just a quick sign helps too, and your engineers will understand what you mean. So I hope that, I hope that's understandable when you are like a big band and you think, oh my God, I cannot do this on stage because it looks unprofessional, because there are like 5,000 people looking at you. Well, the chances that this happens are very small because of the budget. I think it's a matter of budget, of course, but no, I don't see any problem with that.
Oh.
Actually, why would you want to tough through a song when you can't hear yourself, or through a whole show?
Well, it's like mostly it's when you are on tour, and like you said, the venue is different every night, and sometimes, for example, the support bands, they don't always have like the touring sound engineer with them. So sometimes it's like only the local guys, and maybe sometimes there can be some problems, or I don't know. It's just, I don't know. This is what I faced, because sometimes, like, I hear people say that it's very unprofessional that the band starts talking like in the middle of the show, or, you know, usually it happens after the first song, especially if you didn't have a sound check and you only had a line check, if the lineup is like 4 or 5 bands, you know. So, like, usually it's not the headliners, of course. But I mean, there are a lot of like these middle bands, because the opening band usually has a sound check because they're playing first.
Yeah, and I remember the dilemma that we had.
And it's like, it's not only like about our case on tour, because it's like, this is what I hear from so many bands, especially the bands that already have a crowd to play in front of like 200 people, but it's still not like, they are not headliners.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that, and I totally understand that people are thinking about that a lot. I also think there's a fine line between toughing something through because it's rock and roll and you are not the headliner band and you just have to deal with it, and being overly demanding over something that you could easily let slide too. So I think you will have to find a middle ground. And I remember that the dilemma that was IGNEA on our tour, because you were always the middle band, like always in the middle between the opener and the headliner. And yeah, I know soundcheck is hard being the middle band because there's just no soundcheck.
Well, I also understand.
But you dealt really well with it. I mean, you've been fine. You've been crushing it every night. I remember so often when we would just looking at, oh, IGNEA is playing. We gotta check it out. So we would all go to front of house and watch IGNEA play. Cause Kitty Cat.
Yeah, because Kitty actually wants something from me. So. It's actually what I wanted to say is that I talked to the bands who are normally headliners, but there's always a band that is higher, and sometimes they are also supporting bands that are also higher, like their level. And sometimes these big bands who are used to having long sound checks, they have only a line check. And I mean, what I heard from them, that it's so hard, when you are already used to have everything prepared and then you're thrown into the conditions of 10 years ago or something like that.
Yes, I think I can understand that, but the good news is it's everybody's path.
Yes,
you have to go through. Like every band at some point has to eat some shit to make it to the top, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like the essence of rock and roll, not just rock and roll, probably every kind of music, but the essence of what we're doing. And I always believe that when I'm on front of house, or at least I'd like to think that I do that, is like I try to accommodate everyone on the show. So I always try to make room. If my band's not being completely dicks, then I always try to make room for a sound check for the others, or try to help where I can, or at least leave my front of house in a way so the next engineer for the opening band or the support band is having an easier time. And I think it's important, because a lot of people, and what they say, you meet the same people on your way to the top and then on your way back down. So yeah, just look out for each other, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Another question that I had is your advice, like what is it better to invest in terms of equipment in the first place, like for the band that is about to start touring, I don't know, and they just, maybe they have a limited budget. What is the most important things that can make your life easier on stage or something like that, like before the first tour, let's say?
You mean aside from backline and instruments and
sometimes the band already has all the instruments, but for example, how it goes with the backline. For example, they're supporting someone and there is a touring backline for the entire lineup, but there are always like some things that are very personal to every band, like in-ears or something like that.
Well, I always think every singer should have their own microphone. So I think that's number one.
During the pandemic, especially, it's so much about hygiene and everything.
Yeah, right. Maybe people think about that now in a different way than they did before, but I was always really grossed out when I had to take one of the club microphones to the main singer, like there. So yeah. And the second thing is, I always thought it was a really cool idea for smaller bands to get their own in-ear setup and monitoring setup with just one band member to operate it. But this is a tough question, because I don't really know. I don't ever really care, because again, on front of house, when I'm working with a band that I don't know, in a club, I try to make almost everything work. And if I do work with a band who takes me on tour to be their dedicated sound engineer, I do bring a lot of equipment. So I bring a lot of my own equipment to make my own life easier. But say when I'm a house engineer in Hamburg, and you are the visiting band and you don't have an engineer with you, I also have everything in the house that I can give to you to make a good show and a decent sound. But yeah, I had that quite often, that bands came with their own, I don't know, little X32 rack that costs, I think the small X32 costs less than the newest iPhone. So and they have their in-ears, and you only get a whip to front of house, and then you go, cool, I don't have to deal with anything else. I just deal with the front of house inputs, and the band is doing their own monitor setup, which is very cool because in the digital area you can just save your show file and then you go from show to show with it. So I think bands do have a very good experiences with these kind of setups. It's far from it's not far from professional, but it's like as you go, you will probably one day hire somebody to do it all for you, a monitor engineer. But as long as you do little clubs, then yeah, have a go.
Cool. I'll think about it. It's a very interesting thing because right now we're not touring, and we're actually thinking of upgrading everything that we have before touring kicks off again. And it's very important question for us as well, because usually what we suffer a lot from is not being able to hear ourselves on stage well. And I experienced that even changing your microphone, like as a singer, it makes such a huge difference. Like from the tour that we were together in, I had like this usual classic Shure 57, Beta 57A, and then I upgraded to Sennheiser, and it's actually not like the top line of Sennheisers, it's like in the very middle, but for some reason it just captures my voice so much better, and doesn't capture everything around, that I hear myself so much better in ears.
More directional, yeah.
Yes, it made so much difference that for our first rehearsals, I didn't even understand what is happening, because I was hearing myself just like at the studio, the recording studio. It was just a mic. And
but it's great. So you just proven the point that there is a microphone for every singer, and maybe it takes you a while to figure out what you want and what you like. And these days, every music store or every manufacturer, they're more than happy to send you a few just to try it out before you buy it. At least in Hamburg, I know that they're doing it. If you're looking for a new microphone and you're ready to invest, I don't know, 400 or 500 euros into it, then they will give the microphone to you, so you can try it out at home.
Really? I didn't know it, actually.
I think most of them will do it. And I think it is so important to really have the opportunity to go through a couple of mics and see which one is best. I mean, especially in metal, what we do all the time. We do metal all the time. I do metal all the time. And the singer is always in front of the drum kit. And you go like,
yes,
what?
Yes.
Why? Why is this a thing that the drummer is always in the middle when I have my singer there? But it's a thing. And it will also look really weird if the drummer was somewhere else. But you have cymbal spill, you have drum spill in the main vocal mic all the time. And yeah, you just have to pick and try and see what works best.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I know that it's not only like for live shows, because in the studio when we are recording vocals, usually our sound producer always checks like which microphone works best And sometimes, he can have a very cool microphone that is, I don't know, very popular, but it doesn't work with the frequencies of your voice, and that's it. Or maybe it's better for the clean vocals or for the growls and everything. That's why because sometimes the bands, they say, like, I know a lot of bands that feel that front of the house is like very responsible for the sound and for like the comfort of the band, but it's not only about the front of the house. Like, the band has to prepare like as much as they can, because it's not only about.
Sure. I mean, if you have a band on stage that just delivers every night, and they are so good in a sound technical point of view, but also in their playing, then on front of house you go like, that's cool, that is so easy, and then you can actually start to mix stuff instead of fix stuff.
Yeah.
What a great thing, but it's very true. Yeah.
I see. Okay, I will check out.
To sum this up, it's like rehearsals, being tight, knowing your equipment well, and being a very, very good tight live band is all that matters. You can have so much fancy equipment and so many cool toys on stage. If your band isn't tight or isn't good, and the guitar player is doing his own thing and the singer is doing his own thing, then you can have the best sound engineer in the world in front of house for you. It will not be good at the end of the day. Because I do work in little clubs on Reeperbahn, and I really, over the years, I made the experience that if you have a really, really good and tight live band and they come with nothing, it will be a good show. So that's more than half of the rent there already.
Cool. And when it comes to mixing, what do you like better? Like festivals, huge festivals with huge stage and PA and everything, or club shows?
Well, quality-wise, I'd say club shows. Fun-wise, of course, it's festivals. Because in a club show, you have more time to concentrate and prepare your show, because you have a sound check and you have a structured day that begins with the load-in and then with the sound check and then, preparing everything and then show, and then you go to bed. On a festival day, usually your day is a lot shorter, because maybe you got a 6 p.m. slot on one of the stages, and then you can enter you got drum riser access at 4, so you have two hours time for setup, and then you have a 30 minutes changeover, and then you do the show, and then your day is already over by 7, an hour later. But it is very, very cool because you have a lot of time to hang out and have fun. And usually when you do a club show, your evening is filled with doing your show. But when you do a festival and you have like a late afternoon or early evening slot, then you're done with everything because you have so many people helping you. So your trailer or your truck is packed in like no time. And then you still have the whole evening until what's called, and you can go and check out other bands. I mean, I really enjoy festivals. Because I really do still enjoy to go to shows. Private, So I like watching bands. So
yeah, me too.
And meeting friends.
Oh, well, I have one more question. Like, you spend a lot of time in the spaces where the sound is very loud, and what do you do to protect your ears? Because it's the most important thing. And what can you advise maybe to people who are just, I don't know, visiting the shows and musicians on stage as well, and on rehearsals?
I think there is no way to sugarcoat this. When you're a front of house engineer, you are exposed to noise a lot. So the only thing that you really can do is always protect your ears when somebody else is checking, when it's not yourself. Like for example, I have always my plugs in when the other bands are checking. I have my plugs in. When the other bands are playing, I have my plugs in. So I usually protect my ears at all times when when I'm not doing my own sound check and my own show. So all the other times my ears are protected. Also, I don't listen to music when I'm in my bunk or on the bus. I don't listen to music backstage or whatever. And if it's a really long tour, I say if it's more than 5 weeks, then at some point halfway through the tour, I have my own desk with me. I do the sound check, I do the line check, I check if everything works, and if the band is still doing their own thing on stage, I will pop my earplugs back in and just lean back and let them do their thing. So yeah, but you cannot wear earplugs off during the show. I mean, I don't do it because my audience doesn't wear earplugs either. I always try, especially in metal, what I do all the time, I try 100 dBA on front of house. So I try to stay there and not exceed it. So everybody's having a decent noise level. So it's still metal, but it's not blasting your ears. And yeah, that's
cool. Also, I loved the point that you cannot wear your plugs like during the show because the audience doesn't have them. That's so. I never thought about it, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know I remember my parents saying when I started this job, and they were like, "Lisa, are you wearing your earplugs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but not during my show." "But you're doing 6 shows a week." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's my job." I mean, there's other jobs in this world where people are at risk for doing something. I don't really have anything to compare it to right now, but it's just what it is. It's what you do. You're a front of house engineer. That's what you do. And actually, I do test my ears regularly. So I do it at least once a year. I go to let me find the word. The what's it called?
I don't know.
The audio doctor, ear doctor guy. That guy.
That guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where I stand with my hearing, and so far, knocking on wood, it's pretty good. So no damages.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
I think you also, at some point, you also really train your ears in a way.
Because I also found out, like, during the pandemic, I was watching also a lot of videos about, like, vocal health and everything like that. And there was a doctor speaking, like the doctor who fixes the vocal cords, of the singers who can, sometimes they damage their cords so much. And I found out that, for example, some musicians, they have like only one in-ear plugged, and the other one is just hanging so that they hear like everything around, or maybe floor monitors and she said that it is a very bad thing to do actually, because your vocal cords, they tremble, I guess, like they making it like this when you're producing the sound, and when you're hearing only with one ear, it creates some kind of a disbalance in your vocal cords, and it actually can damage your voice. And I was like, what? Okay.
Also, the thing with the one ear in and the other ear out. Now, I'm not much of a monitor engineer, so I don't do that very often, but a very, very good monitor engineer once she said that on a podcast, is when you have one ear out of your in-ear, people usually tend to turn their pack up so they have it louder. So she says, like, put just one ear in with your usual mix that you have, and then put the other in ear too. It's pretty damn loud.
Yes, yes.
So you're unnecessarily damaging your one ear with the loudness that you've got, which you wouldn't have if you would just have both in ears in and ask for your monitor engineer for a bit more ambience or whatever you need in order to have the feeling of a live show. Now, I'm not a musician, but I can understand why people do that. But yeah, it just damages that one ear then if you have it so loud. Also, in this day and age, you have so many great stuff on monitor world, like 3D immersive monitor mixing and monitor settings. I've heard that many times. That's just great, and people just really don't need to have their in-ears as loud anymore in order to have the whole feeling on stage.
Yeah. Well, in-ears make so much difference. I don't know how them. I had my in-ears first, and then I bought my microphone. It was so strange, but that was the case. I mean, I just remember that after the first couple of shows, I really didn't hear myself at all, and I didn't hear the tune at all. So, I mean, with the clean vocals, when you don't hear where you are supposed to sing to, I mean, I just watched a little bit of the video from a live show, and I understood that I didn't hit a lot of notes simply because I didn't hear myself. And that's why, like, back then I was 20 years old, and I saved money and I bought in-ears, and then I bought like the microphone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even much of a monitor engineer, and I've got a pair of in-ears, and it is honestly my favorite piece of equipment that I own.
Yes, yeah. I have a couple of friends who use, professional in-ears just to listen to their music. They're not even musicians.
I do that. I had that forever. I mean, now you got like noise canceling stuff, and it's really cool. But before the era of the really cool noise canceling stuff, I always had my in-ears on the plane. I always listen to music or to movies on the plane with my in-ears.
Do you have right now any shows planned to mix? Maybe no.
No, actually, my my next tour is planned August 2021.
Okay.
So far, but no, unfortunately not.
Well, I really hope that I really hope that it changes at some point. I heard that people in Berlin were protesting like against the lockdown, like thousands of people.
Yeah, those are dummies. We don't want to talk about those, but we are going to have a demonstration next week. Yeah.
You mean like the people from the event industry?
From the event industry, it's like the We Make Events, Red Alert, Night of Lights, all those initiatives that have been around. We're doing this in Berlin next week. It is very important to understand that we are not demonstrating against the lockdown, and it is very, very clear to us that these measures have to take place. We are just demonstrating pro being visible and just have the people understand and the government to understand that we are in danger and the whole industry is in danger, and we don't know how to move on and how long it's going to take until we can move on. So it's just a matter of being visible. There. So like a whole industry of a couple of million people working in it who are all out of work.
Yeah, I guess that Germany has a huge event industry. I mean, it's way more developed than in many countries.
It's very big. I hope I get the numbers right now, but the car industry in Germany makes a yearly like 165 billion euros a year, and the event industry as a whole makes 160 billion euros a year. So it's just not very much, not a lot smaller than the car industry, of which Germany is famous for.
Yes,
It's the event industry, and we're completely out of work, and with almost getting support is very difficult over here. And I mean, it's probably a lot more difficult in every other country right now.
Yeah. Well, I heard that the UK is doing something, but still, I mean, I cannot even think of maybe like countries like in Ukraine. I'm not even thinking that nothing is being done here, but like,
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that, but I'm sure that countries, even countries like Hungary or Poland, I'm sure it's so much harder there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I get my support from Austria because I'm Austrian. So I've been quite lucky so far with being looked after. So I cannot really speak for everyone else. I just really, really hope that everybody is well. And I really hope that the big black cloud that we're trying to fight every day when we wake up and know that there is still nothing to do, I just hope that we all have the strength to fight it a little longer and keep it at bay, and just keep the mental health. Just keep us all mentally healthy, which is a very, very big part. And yeah, taking it like a champ.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, but I also just one question popped up in my head. Like right now, there are a lot of like if the shows are happening, they are socially distanced, meaning that usually there are, people are sitting at the metal concerts, and usually there is a smaller number of people in a larger at the larger venues. Does it actually influence the sound? Like when you're mixing, will it be different, like compared to usual standing of people?
Yeah, of course. I mean, sitting and standing, I don't really know. I mean, you can tilt the PA in a way so it's for seated and not for standing people. But yeah, of course, it will influence sound massively if you have like a 10,000 people room and you're only allowed to sell 2,000 tickets. So that will be a huge difference. Yeah, it's worse.
Yes, yes. That I was just thinking. This is something that just came to my head because I know that it is very bad financially because like I was occupied at the like booking agency as well, and I understand that it's like I cannot even understand how people are going to make money from these like all the sides like promoters and the touring party and everyone. And I also understand that like right now a lot of people are without their jobs, so paying more for the shows, it's also not that easy,
Yeah, and also my problem is I don't have a solution. I don't have an alternative. I don't know. I'm not a politician and I'm not a scientist, and I don't know what else we can do. I can only hope for politics to do the right thing by us, and I can not do anything but trust the people, the science people, those guys, and the scientists to do the right thing for us. And yeah, I don't know how to move on. I mean, that sounds dramatic.
Yes.
But I don't know how the industry can move on if there isn't a vaccine or whatever. I'm not sure.
Well, I heard that there are a lot of vaccines now tested, so I mean, at least we can hope
in Russia
because Oh no, I heard that like this vaccine in Russia, that the American government and scientists, they are not even ready to test it on animals. And I mean, like,
Yeah, well, I don't know.
yeah.
I let other people do that job.
Yes.
I like to push faders and twist some knobs and do some rock and roll, and I